Every winter, modern gardeners and farmers talk about one thing: cover crops. Rye, clover, vetch, oats. It's become almost gospel. Plant a green blanket, protect your soil, feed it nitrogen, and come spring, you're ready to grow. But here's what most people don't know. Before cover crops ever became a buzzword, generations of farmers across Europe, Asia, and early America used a different, simpler, and in many ways superior method to prepare their soil for winter. It required no seed, no irrigation, no waiting for growth. Just knowledge, timing, and the materials nature was already dropping at their feet. And when you learn it, you realize we've been overlooking one of the most powerful soil restoration tools ever used. Long before industrial agriculture, farmers in cold and temperate regions didn't rely on cover crops to protect soil. They relied on layering. As soon as the final harvest was done, they blanketed the ground with organic matter straw, leaves, wood ash, crop residues, and sometimes manure. They called it the winter blanket. It wasn't about feeding plants. It was about preserving the life beneath the surface. When frost set in, that layer insulated the soil, keeping microbial life active, just enough to survive the freeze. It also caught winter moisture and prevented erosion. By spring, the decomposing material had created a rich, dark top layer, humus that could be planted into immediately. In regions like rural Japan, farmers used rice, straw, and ash. In 18th century Europe, it was leaf mold and stable manure. American settlers used corn stalks, sawdust, and even wool scraps. It all served the same purpose: build soil while it sleeps. This practice faded as fertilizers and cover crops took over, but the science behind it is solid. A thick mulch layer can outperform many cover crops in water retention, weed suppression, and microbial stability, especially in regions with harsh winters or poor moisture. Soil isn't dead in winter. Beneath the frost line, microorganisms are still active. Worms dig deep, fungi extend their networks, and bacteria slowly break down organic matter. When you leave soil bare, or even covered with shallow-rooted winter crops, you lose that deeper cycle of decay. Ancient winter layering, on the other hand, keeps the system fed through the cold months. As the surface mulch freezes and thaws, it releases trace minerals and carbon compounds that microbes use as energy. This slow-release nutrition builds resilience. By the time spring arrives, the soil is alive, structured, and teeming with nutrients ready for immediate planting. You don't need to till, reseed, or mow down cover crops. The soil wakes up ready to work. To apply this today, start immediately after harvest. Clear out any diseased plant material, then spread your organic matter in layers about 4 to 6 inches thick. Begin with something carbon-rich, like dry leaves, straw, or shredded stalks. Add a smaller layer of nitrogen sources, fresh grass clippings, manure, or compost. Top it with another dry layer to hold everything in place through wind and snow. Over winter, that sandwich will slowly transform into the most fertile material your soil will ever make on its own. Modern cover cropping often requires tilling or crimping to terminate the growth before spring planting. That's labour, fuel, and disturbance. The ancient method avoided all of it. Once the mulch decomposed naturally, the farmer simply pulled it aside or planted directly through it. The soil remained undisturbed, preserving the mycorrhizal networks and worm tunnels built the previous season. If you've ever dealt with compacted or waterlogged soil, this is where this method truly shines. The organic layers improve porosity while preventing erosion. Rain doesn't wash nutrients away because they're trapped and absorbed by the mulch. Even in frozen conditions, that insulation keeps the topsoil from turning to concrete. When thaw comes, the ground drains evenly instead of flooding. You can replicate this easily on any scale, from a raised bed to a small field. After the last harvest, skip the cover crop seed and spend an afternoon gathering leaves, straw, or even paper waste. Layer it thickly, making sure no soil is visible. Come spring, pull back a small patch and you'll see a dark, spongy bed teeming with worms. That's centuries-old agricultural wisdom proving its worth. Every fall, tons of organic material go to waste. Leaves burned, straw discarded, branches piled up. The farmers of old saw none of it as waste. Everything was fuel for fertility. They knew that by returning these materials to the soil, they were closing the loop of nature's cycle. That mindset is what modern gardeners need to reclaim. If you live near deciduous trees, collect their leaves in autumn. Spread them thickly on your garden beds before snow. Add a layer of ash from your wood stove if you use one. It adds potassium and helps balance acidity. Even shredded cardboard or old burlap sacks can serve as a carbon layer. The key is coverage and consistency. The soil must remain blanketed from the first frost to the first thaw. One especially effective variation is the leaf manure stack. Farmers in the early 1900s mixed fallen leaves with manure and spread it 6 inches deep. The carbon and nitrogen combination fermented slowly under snow, producing compost in place. By spring, it was rich enough to sow directly into. It's a no-waste, no-till, no-fertilizer system that produces stunning results. Cover crops certainly work, but they're not universal. They fail in frozen zones where roots can't establish or in dry regions where water is precious. The ancient mulching approach sidesteps those limits. It doesn't require germination, doesn't depend on rainfall, and provides protection immediately after harvest. It feeds deep microbial layers that cover crops can't reach. The biggest advantage is timing. While cover crops are still trying to grow before frost, your layered soil is already working. The freeze-thaw cycles do the mixing for you, grinding the organic layers into fine particles. By spring, the surface breaks down into a natural seedbed that breathes. There's no mowing or tilling, just planting. What ancient farmers understood intuitively, modern soil science now confirms. Soil health isn't about adding more. It's about protecting what's already there. Cover crops are useful tools, but they're not the foundation. The true foundation is carbon, microbial life, and the natural decay process that only a proper winter mulch can maintain. If you want to test this yourself, dedicate one bed to this old method. Mulch it with leaves, straw, and compost layers. Leave another bed with a traditional cover crop. Come spring, compare moisture, texture, and growth. You'll see why the old ways lasted centuries before cover crops ever appeared in textbooks. Ancient farmers didn't have modern fertilizers, fancy seeds, or soil amendments, but they had understanding. They worked with nature's rhythms instead of forcing it to fit a schedule. That's what we need again today. So before you buy another bag of seed, look to the ground and remember what those before us already knew. The soil never sleeps. It only needs to be kept alive. If this guide gave you something new to think about, hit that subscribe button, share this with another grower, and help keep these timeless methods alive. At Hydrohaven, we dig up the old truths that modern gardening forgot, because sometimes the best innovations are buried in history.